I never expected my life to implode on a random Tuesday afternoon. But there I was, staring at photos scattered across my kitchen counter, each one a dagger to my heart. My husband Nolan, the father of my 5-year-old son, locked in various embraces with a woman I'd never seen before. My name is Harper, and until 10 minutes ago, I thought I had a pretty good handle on my life. The manila envelope had arrived without a return address, just my name written in block letters. At first, I'd assumed it was paperwork from one of my fitness clients. "Mommy, can I have apple juice?" Oliver's voice snapped me back to reality. I quickly swept the photos into the envelope and shoved it under a stack of mail. "Sure, baby." My voice came out steadier than I felt. I grabbed his favorite Superman cup from the cabinet, grateful for the mundane task to keep my hands from shaking. The timestamps on the photos were from last week, when Nolan claimed he was working late at the restaurant. The woman wore a red dress that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. They were leaving some upscale place downtown, his hand on the small of her back, both of them laughing at something I couldn't see. "When's Daddy coming home?" Oliver asked, juice dribbling down his chin. I wiped his face with a paper towel. "Later, sweetie. He's got a busy night at the restaurant." The restaurant, the source of endless family drama since we'd married into the Decker dynasty 6 years ago. Nolan's mother Lorraine never missed a chance to remind me how the place had been in their family for 3 generations. How they'd never needed outside help before until her precious son married a fitness instructor. My phone buzzed. Speaking of the devil, a text from Lorraine. "Family dinner tomorrow night. No excuses this time. Tessa and Grant will be there."
Great.
Just what I needed, an evening with my judgmental mother-in-law and sharp-tongued sister-in-law. Tessa, younger than me by 4 years, but somehow always managing to make me feel like an awkward teenager. I typed back a quick, "We'll be there," before I could change my mind. Maybe it was masochistic, but I needed to see Nolan in person. To watch his face. To know if he'd look at me differently now that I knew. "Mommy, can we do superhero poses?" Oliver's question pulled me from my dark thoughts. Our nightly ritual practicing power poses that were really just modified yoga stretches. "Of course, Superman." I managed to smile, dropping into a warrior pose beside him. As we stretched, I caught our reflection in the sliding glass door. My son, all gangly limbs and infectious enthusiasm. Me holding it together by a thread. The garage door rumbled open downstairs. Nolan was home early. "Daddy." Oliver abandoned our poses and raced toward the stairs. I stayed frozen in place, listening to their muffled greetings below. My husband's voice drifted up, warm and familiar. The same voice that had promised to love me forever. The same voice that had probably whispered sweet nothings to the woman in red just days ago. Heavy footsteps on the stairs. I straightened up, squaring my shoulders. Nolan appeared in the doorway, Oliver perched on his hip. He smiled at me, that easy, charming smile that had first won me over at the gym where we met. "Hey, babe," he said, leaning in to kiss my cheek. He smelled like expensive cologne, not his usual brand. "Sorry I'm late." The supplier meeting ran long. I met his eyes, searching for
What?
guilt.
Shame?
All I saw was the same confident mask he always wore. "No problem," I replied, my voice perfectly neutral. "How was your meeting?" "Productive." He set Oliver down. "Think we might have found a way to turn things around at the restaurant." I thought about the envelope hidden under the mail, about tomorrow's family dinner, about all the lies stacking up between us, like a house of cards. "That's great," I said. "I'm sure your mother will be thrilled to hear all about it tomorrow night." Something flickered across his face, so brief I almost missed it. Fear? Or just my imagination? Either way, I was about to find out exactly what kind of man I'd married. The Decker family mansion always felt like a museum, beautiful, cold, and full of things I wasn't supposed to touch. I smoothed Oliver's cowlick one last time before ringing the doorbell, the manila envelope burning a hole in my purse. Lorraine answered the door in her signature pearls and disapproval. "Harper, dear, that outfit is interesting for a family dinner." Her eyes swept over my black dress, the one I'd specifically chosen for its conservative cut. And Oliver, darling, come give grandmother a kiss. Oliver hung back, clinging to my leg. Smart kid. Where's Nolan? I asked, following her into the formal dining room. Running late, as usual. Lorraine's lips tightened. The restaurant dash. Is doing just fine, mother. Tessa's voice cut through the room as she emerged from the kitchen, wine glass in hand. Her husband Grant trailed behind her like a well-trained shadow. Though I'm sure Harper's exercise videos are thriving. I bit back a retort about how my exercise videos helped pay for the restaurant's new wine cellar. Instead, I smiled. They are, actually. Just hit 50,000 subscribers. Tessa's perfectly plucked eyebrows arched. How lovely. Though I do worry about Oliver, with you being so busy. She turned to Lorraine. Remember, when mothers actually raise their children? Grant cleared his throat. Tess.
What?
I'm just concerned about my nephew. She ruffled Oliver's hair as he passed. It must be hard, having a mommy who cares more about her Instagram followers than family time. My fingers itched to pull out the photos, to ask if she knew about the woman in red. But Oliver was watching, absorbing every word with those big brown eyes. Oliver, why don't you show Grant your new superhero drawings? I suggested. Grant shot me a grateful look and led Oliver to the living room. Speaking of family time, Lorraine interjected, the country club's annual gala is next month. The Deckers have hosted for 3 generations. 4, Tessa corrected. And this year's theme is legacy. She smirked. Though I suppose that's not really your area, Harper. Being new money and all. The front door opened, saving me from responding. Nolan's voice echoed through the foyer, followed by the click of high heels that definitely weren't his. Hope you don't mind, he called out. I brought someone from the restaurant. This is Madison, our new events coordinator. The woman who walked in wore a familiar red dress. My stomach dropped. Tessa's wine glass froze halfway to her lips. Even Lorraine looked caught off guard. Madison was younger than me, with a kind of confidence that came from never having to doubt your place in the world. Mrs. Decker, thank you for having me. She extended a manicured hand to Lorraine. Nolan's told me so much about your family's legacy. Of course he had. Daddy. Oliver ran in from the living room, breaking the tension. Nolan scooped him up, but his eyes were on me, watching for my reaction. I kept my face neutral, even as bile rose in my throat. Madison, lovely to meet you. That's a beautiful dress. Oh, thank you. She beamed. Nolan actually helped me pick it out when we were discussing the gala plans last week. Beside me, Tessa made a small choking sound. How thoughtful of him, I said, reaching for my water glass. My husband has excellent taste. The dinner that followed was excruciating. Madison dominated the conversation with plans for modernizing the restaurant's image. Lorraine nodded along, clearly impressed. Tessa kept shooting strange glances between Nolan and me, while Grant studied his plate like it held the secrets of the universe. Only Oliver seemed oblivious to the undercurrents, happily making his broccoli talk to each other. Harper, Madison turned to me. Nolan mentioned you're in fitness. Maybe we could collaborate on some health-focused events at the restaurant. Before I could respond, Tessa jumped in. Oh, I don't think Harper's brand quite aligns with the Decker image. Right, Mother? Lorraine dabbed her lips. Perhaps not. Though speaking of image, Nolan, the bank called again about Dash. Mother. Nolan's voice carried a warning. Not now. I looked around the table, at my husband's tightened jaw, at Madison's perfectly practiced smile, at Tessa's barely concealed glee at my discomfort. 6 years I'd sat at this table, trying to earn my place. Maybe it was time to flip it instead. The first red flag should have been the locked office door. In 6 years of marriage, Nolan had never locked his home office. But there I was at midnight, picking the lock with a bobby pin, thanks to a YouTube tutorial and desperation. Oliver was sleeping over at Lorraine's, her idea of quality time that usually involved undermining my parenting. But tonight, it worked in my favor. The lock clicked. I slipped inside, Phone flashlight illuminating stacks of papers scattered across Nolan's desk. Bank statements, credit card bills, and something else, documents with my signature that I definitely hadn't signed. My hands trembled as I picked up a loan agreement. There was my name, authorizing a second mortgage on our house. The date was 3 months ago when I'd been at a fitness conference in Denver. Looking for something? I jumped, dropping the papers. Grant stood in the doorway, his usual hesitant expression replaced with something harder. Jesus, Grant. What are you doing here? Tessa forgot her phone after dinner. He stepped in, closing the door. But we both know that's not the important question right now. I gathered the fallen papers, mind racing. Does Tessa know you're here?
No.
And she doesn't know about the loans either. He picked up one of the statements. But I'm guessing you didn't authorize this. How do you dash? I'm an accountant, Harper. I've been watching Nolan cook the books for months. He ran a hand through his hair. The restaurant's hemorrhaging money. These loans, the new wine cellar, Madison's salary, it's all smoke and mirrors. My throat tightened. Madison. How long? 3 months, officially. But there were others before her. Grant's voice softened. I wanted to tell you, but Tessa threatened you. The pieces were falling into place. Like she threatened to tell Lorraine about your gambling debts if you didn't marry her? His head snapped up. How did you dash? I have eyes, Grant. And unlike the Deckers, I actually pay attention to people instead of just talking over them. A door slammed downstairs. We froze. Harper. Nolan's voice carried up the stairs. Why are all the lights on? Grant moved quickly, grabbing his phone. Text me your email. I've got copies of everything, the real numbers, the forged signatures, all of it. Why are you helping me? He smiled sadly. Because someone needs to break this cycle. And it's not going to be me or Tessa. Footsteps on the stairs. I shoved the papers back into random piles as Grant slipped out the other door toward the guest bathroom. Nolan appeared in the doorway, Madison half hidden behind him. Both looked disheveled. Both wore guilty expressions that morphed into surprise. Babe, what are you doing in here? I held up a random bill. Looking for the internet password. Oliver's been asking to play that new online game, remember? At midnight, Madison stepped forward, smoothing her hair. That seems dedicated. Well, you know me. I smiled brightly. Always going above and beyond for my family. Speaking of which, how was your business meeting? Nolan's jaw tightened. Madison was just helping me with some paperwork. I'm sure she was. I moved toward the door, pausing beside them. By the way, Madison, you might want to fix your lipstick. It's smeared. She touched her mouth self-consciously as I brushed past. Harper, wait. Nolan caught my arm. It's not what you think. I looked down at his hand, then up at his face. You know what I think, Nolan? I think you should be very careful about what you do next. Because unlike your girlfriend's lipstick, some marks don't wash off so easily. I pulled away, heart pounding as I descended the stairs. Grant's bathroom door opened as I passed, and he gave me a slight nod. Outside, the night air hit my lungs like freedom. I pulled out my phone, creating a new email draft. Time to start documenting everything, the loans, the affairs, the lies. The Deckers had built their legacy on appearances, but I was about to show them what reality looked like. And reality, unlike Madison's lipstick, was going to leave a permanent stain. The lawyer's office felt too bright, too sterile for the mess I was about to unleash. Grant's financial documents lay spread across the mahogany desk while my attorney, Sarah Chin, reviewed them with narrowed eyes. This is extensive, she said finally. Multiple instances of forgery, unauthorized loans, misappropriation of funds. Your husband's been busy. My phone buzzed, another text from Nolan. I'd been dodging his calls since the office incident 3 days ago. Can we prove it? Oh, we can prove it. The question is, what do you want to do with this information? Before I could answer, my phone lit up again. This time, Lorraine's name flashed across the screen. I declined the call, but her text came through anyway. Oliver's asking for you. Stop this childish behavior, and come home. Home. The word stuck in my throat. Harper. Sarah's voice pulled me back. We need to discuss strategy. If we file criminal charges dash.
No.
The word came out sharper than intended. I mean, not yet. Oliver's already confused about why I'm staying at my friend's place. I don't want him to see his father arrested. Then what's your goal here? My goal. 3 days ago, it had been simple. Gather evidence, expose Nolan, protect Oliver.
But now.
I want out, I said finally. Clean break, fair settlement. But I need leverage to make sure the Deckers don't try to take Oliver. Sarah shuffled through the papers. Well, they certainly won't want this public. The restaurant's reputation dash. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Grant. Tessa knows something's up. She's been going through my office. Be careful.
Perfect.
Another fire to put out. What about the house? I asked. The second mortgage dash. A knock interrupted us. Sarah's assistant poked her head in. Sorry, but there's someone insisting on seeing Harper. Says she's family. Madison walked in before either of us could respond. She'd traded her red dress for a conservative blue suit, but her smile was just as practiced. Harper, we need to talk. Sarah started to object, but I held up a hand. It's fine. Give us a minute. Once we were alone, Madison's smile dropped. Nolan told me everything. Did he? Somehow I doubt that. He told me about the loans, about using your signature. She sat down, smoothing her skirt. What he didn't tell me was that you were his wife. I blinked. Excuse me? He said you were separated, that you were just hanging around for the money. Her voice cracked slightly. I'm not the other woman, Harper. I'm the one who got played. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so tragic. How long? 6 months. He said he was waiting for the right time to tell his mother about the divorce. She pulled out her phone, showing me texts, photos, hotel receipts. I have more. A lot more. Why are you showing me this? Because yesterday, I found out I'm pregnant. Her hands trembled slightly. And an hour ago, Nolan offered me money to take care of it quietly. Said something about family reputation. The room seemed to tilt. I thought about Oliver, about Lorraine's obsession with legacy, about Tessa's desperate need for validation. What do you want? What we both want, freedom from the Deckers. Madison stood. I'll email you everything I have. Use it however you need to. After she left, Sarah returned, eyebrows raised. Well, I looked at my phone. More missed calls from Nolan, another guilt trip text from Lorraine, a warning from Grant. The pieces of my old life, all demanding attention. Change of plans, I said, pulling out my laptop. I'm not just looking for a way out anymore. I'm going to make sure the Deckers can never hurt anyone else like this. That's a bigger fight. I know. I opened my email, starting to forward Madison's evidence. But some things are worth burning bridges over. My phone buzzed one final time. Oliver's face lit up the screen in a photo Lorraine had sent. He was smiling, but his eyes held that same uncertainty I'd seen at family dinners. Time to show my son what real strength looked like. The view count on my latest fitness video hit 100,000 as I sat in my temporary apartment, surrounded by cardboard boxes and determination. 2 weeks since I'd left the Decker mansion, and my online following had exploded. Turns out people loved the authenticity of a trainer dealing with real-life struggles. If only they knew the half of it. And that's how we turn emotional baggage into physical strength, I said to the camera, finishing my live stream. The comments flooded in, mostly supportive, some flirtatious, and one that made my blood freeze. Interesting content, Harper. Mother would be devastated to see the Decker name associated with this.
Spikdek.
Tessa. Before I could respond, my phone rang.
Grant.
Tessa's planning something, he said without preamble. She's been meeting with the bank manager who approved Nolan's loans. I glanced at the stack of legal documents on my kitchen counter. Let me guess. Trying to bury the evidence?
Worse.
She's trying to prove you were complicit, that you knew about the forgeries and benefited from them. The irony almost made me laugh. With what proof? Your fitness business. The timing of its growth, the equipment purchases. She's spinning it like you were laundering money through Dash. A knock at my door cut him off. Through the peephole, I saw Madison, looking pale and determined. I have to go, I told Grant. Keep me posted. Madison burst in as soon as I opened the door. Nolan knows. About the baby, about me talking to you. He's threatening to expose my past if I don't sign something saying I lied about everything. What past? She sank onto my couch. I was arrested in college. Prescription drug charges, expunged record. But if it gets out, your career would be over.
He sat beside her.
Just like my reputation if Tessa's plan works. My phone buzzed with a text from Lorraine. Oliver keeps asking why his mother abandoned him for internet fame. Perhaps it's time to discuss custody arrangements. The threat was clear. I showed Madison the message. They're trying to break us both, she said quietly. No. I stood up, an idea forming. They're trying to control us. But they forgot something important. What's that? I pulled up my livestream analytics. We have audiences. People who trust us. And the Deckers' whole world revolves around reputation. Madison's eyes widened. You want to go public? Not with everything. Not yet. I opened my laptop. But what if we started telling our stories? Not as victims, but as women refusing to be silenced. Nolan would dash. React exactly like the Deckers always do, trying to shut us up, throwing money at the problem. I smiled grimly. And every attempt would just prove our point. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Lorraine, this time with a photo of Oliver looking sad at their dinner table. The manipulation was obvious, but it still hurt. They're using your son, Madison observed. They're using him now. But one day he'll be old enough to understand the truth. I turned to her. The question is, what truth do we want him to learn? That his mother gave in to protect him, or that she fought to show him what integrity looks like? Madison touched her stomach absently. And my baby? What truth will they learn? That depends on what we do next. I pulled up my video editing software. Want to help me plan tomorrow's live stream? She hesitated, then nodded. What's the topic? Breaking free from toxic legacies. I started typing. And I think it's time to introduce my special guest, the woman who helped me find my voice. As we worked, more messages poured in. Threats from Tessa, manipulative pleas from Lorraine, increasingly desperate texts from Nolan. Each one strengthened my resolve. The Deckers had spent generations building their legacy on secrets and control. Time to see how it held up under the spotlight of truth. I glanced at Madison, saw the same determination in her eyes. Tomorrow, we'd start telling our story. And unlike the carefully curated Decker family narrative, this one would be raw, real, and impossible to silence. Let them try to maintain their precious reputation when faced with authentic truth. The live stream had been live for exactly 6 minutes when the Deckers' lawyer sent the cease and desist letter. By minute 12, Lorraine had filed an emergency custody petition. At minute 15, Nolan walked into my apartment using his old key. Turn it off, he said quietly, standing just out of camera view. Madison, sitting beside me on the live stream couch, gripped my hand. The viewer count kept climbing 15,000 and rising. I said, turn it off, Harper. Nolan's voice carried that familiar edge, the one that usually made me back down. Not today. Welcome to the stream, Nolan, I said instead. Want to tell our viewers about the forged loan documents? Or should Madison share her story first? He moved faster than I expected, reaching for the laptop. But I was faster, years of training making me quick. The laptop clattered to the floor, camera still rolling. You're destroying everything, he hissed. The restaurant, the family name Dash. You did that yourself. I positioned myself between him and Madison. Every loan, every lie, every woman you manipulated. Manipulated? He laughed, but his eyes darted to the still streaming laptop. I gave you everything. A home, a family name, status Dash. You gave me debt and betrayal. I pulled out my phone, showing him the custody petition. And now you're trying to take my son. Mother's idea. He stepped closer. But we can fix this. Turn off the stream, sign some papers. We'll say it was all a misunderstanding dash. Like you want Madison to say her pregnancy is a misunderstanding? His face darkened. You have no idea what you're doing. Actually, a new voice said, I think she does. Grant stood in the doorway, holding up his phone. He'd been recording everything. Tessa's watching the stream, he said, along with about 20,000 others now, including some interesting names from the restaurant industry. Nolan's mask cracked. Grant, you don't understand. The restaurant's finances are a mess, I finished. But you can still do one right thing. Sign the divorce papers. Clean split, joint custody, no contests. Or what? His smile turned cruel. You'll ruin the family? Destroy Oliver's inheritance? Some mother you are. The words hit hard, playing on every doubt I'd wrestled with. But then I heard it, a small sniffle from behind me. Madison, hand protectively over her stomach, tears in her eyes. Something snapped. You want to talk about family? I turned to the laptop, speaking directly to the camera. Let me tell you about the Decker family legacy. About a restaurant built on forged loans and stolen dreams. About a man who uses women like disposable napkins and a family that covers up his messes. Harper Nolan started. I'm not finished. My voice stayed steady. To every woman watching who's been told to stay quiet for the family name, who's been manipulated into thinking she's crazy or ungrateful, you're not alone. And you don't have to stay. The viewer count hit 30,000. Nolan's phone buzzed. Then Grant's. Then mine. All with the same message from Lorraine. Come to the house.
Now.
All of you. Damage control, Grant muttered.
No.
I looked at Madison, saw my own determination reflected back. This is where we make our stand. They'll destroy us, she whispered. They'll try. I picked up the laptop, addressing the audience one last time. Stay tuned, everyone. We're taking this show on the road. I ended the stream, but kept Grant's phone recording as we headed to our cars. Nolan followed, making calls, probably to lawyers. My phone lit up with a text from Sarah Chin. Bold move. Hope you know what you're doing. I didn't. Not really. But as I watched Madison straighten her shoulders and Grant stand a little taller, I realized something important. Sometimes the worst moments aren't when we're at our lowest, but when we finally see clearly what we're fighting for. And I was done fighting alone. Ready? I asked my unlikely allies. Madison nodded. Grant gripped his phone tighter. And somewhere in the Decker mansion, a family legacy built on secrets was about to meet its match. Time to show them what real strength looks like. The Decker mansion felt different at night. Colder. Like the facade had finally cracked enough to show the rot underneath. We found them all in the formal dining room. Lorraine at the head of the table, Tessa beside her, Oliver sleeping on the window seat. My heart clenched at the sight of my son. Lorraine's power move, using him as a chess piece. Quite the performance, Lorraine said, gesturing to the chairs. Though I expected better from you, Grant. Grant remained standing, phone still recording. I expected better from all of you. Enough. Nolan slammed the door behind us. Mother, I can handle Dash. Handle what? Tessa's voice cracked. The viral video? The pregnancy? Or the fact that your little financial games are about to destroy everything? Madison stepped forward. I'm not a game. No. Tessa laughed bitterly. You're just another stupid woman who fell for my brother's act. Like Harper. Like all the others. Something in her tone made me pause. Others? How would you know about Dash? Because she sent the photos. Grant's quiet words dropped like bombs. Tell them, Tess. Tell them how you've been documenting Nolan's affairs for years. Building your insurance policy. The room went still. Tessa's face drained of color. Is this true? Lorraine's voice could have frozen hell. Someone had to protect the family, Tessa whispered. Nolan was getting sloppy. The women, the loans. I kept the evidence in case we needed leverage. Leverage. Nolan advanced on his sister. You were supposed to help me hide it. Like you helped me? Tessa stood, trembling. When father died, and you took control. When you promised I'd have a place in the business, then shut me out? I shut you out because you're unstable. I'm unstable? You forged your wife's signature. You got your mistress pregnant. Oliver stirred at the shouting. I moved toward him, but Lorraine blocked my path. Don't you dare, she hissed. This family dash is toxic. I pulled out my phone, showing her the live stream comments still pouring in. Your precious legacy is built on manipulation and lies. And now everyone knows. We can fix this, Nolan insisted. Harper, if you just dash. Sign these. I pulled out the divorce papers. Clean break. Joint custody, no contests. Or tomorrow I release proof of every loan, every affair, every cover-up. You wouldn't dare. Try me. I met his eyes. I'm not afraid of you anymore. None of us are. This is absurd, Lorraine started, but Madison cut her off. I'm keeping my baby, she announced. And I'm testifying about the financial fraud. So am I, Grant added. Tessa laughed suddenly, a broken sound. You know what's funny? I sent those photos to Harper thinking it would drive her away quietly. Instead, she looked at her brother. She did what I never could. She fought back. You betrayed me, Nolan growled.
No. Tessa pulled out a USB drive.
I documented you, betraying all of us. And now. She slid it across the table to me. I'm choosing a different legacy. Oliver sat up, rubbing his eyes. Mommy? The room fell silent as he padded over to me. I lifted him up, feeling his small arms around my neck. We're going home, baby. The papers, I reminded Nolan. Your choice. Sign them now, or tomorrow the world sees who you really are. He stared at his son, then at Madison, then at the ruins of his carefully constructed world. A pen, he said finally. Mother, give me a pen. As he signed, I looked at Tessa. Why now? She touched her own stomach so subtly I almost missed it. Because some legacies aren't worth preserving. We left them there. Lorraine staring at her shattered dynasty, Nolan facing his consequences. Tessa holding Grant's hand for perhaps the first time in years. Outside, the night air felt clean, like freedom. Ready for a new chapter? I asked Oliver. He nodded against my shoulder, already half asleep. Behind us, Madison and Grant followed, all of us stepping into a future unburdened by the weight of false legacies. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's walking away and building something better from the ashes. 6 months can change everything. Our new apartment overlooked the park where Oliver and I did our morning superhero poses. Smaller than the Decker mansion, but filled with actual warmth. My online fitness empire had exploded. Turns out authenticity sells better than perfection. Mommy, look. Oliver pointed to his tablet. Aunt Tessa's baby bump. I glanced at the social media post. Tessa and Grant standing outside their modest suburban home, her pregnancy finally showing. The caption read, building a different kind of legacy.
The doorbell rang.
Madison stood there, her own bump now prominent, holding a manila envelope identical to the one that had started everything. The final settlement papers, she said, stepping inside. The restaurant's being sold to pay off the debts. Thought you might want to know. And Nolan, taking a job as a line cook in Seattle. She smiled wryly. Apparently, starting from the bottom builds character. Oliver ran over, showing her his tablet. Look, 2 babies coming. 3, actually. I gestured to Madison's stomach. Your new cousin will have plenty of playmates. The irony wasn't lost on either of us, how the Decker dynasty would continue, just not in the way Lorraine had planned. Speaking of whom, Harper. Lorraine's voice behind us made me turn. She stood in my doorway, looking smaller somehow. More human. I brought Oliver's old baby photos. I thought, perhaps the new mothers might want to see what their children might look like. It was an olive branch, awkward but sincere. Come in, I said. We're just about to have lunch. As Oliver showed his grandmother his latest superhero drawings, my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah Chen. Final forensic accounting report complete. Want me to file charges? I looked at Lorraine, seeing past the designer outfit to the worried grandmother beneath. At Madison, who'd found her voice along with her freedom. At Oliver, who deserved to know his family. All of it, broken pieces and all. No, I texted back. Some debts can't be paid with prison time. Mommy, can we show them my new video? Oliver bounced excitedly. The one about strong families? I pulled up my latest fitness channel post, building strength from broken places, featuring Oliver demonstrating kid-friendly exercises while I talked about emotional resilience. The comment section was filled with stories from other parents finding their way through similar struggles. You've built something remarkable, Lorraine said quietly. Very different from what we had. Different isn't always worse, Madison added, one hand on her stomach. My phone buzzed again, a message from Tessa. Starting Lamaze classes next week. You too want to join? Strength in numbers. The old me would have hesitated, would have searched for the trap or hidden agenda. But that Harper was gone, replaced by someone who understood that real strength comes from building bridges, not burning them. We'd love to, I replied, then looked at Madison. Both of us. Oliver climbed into my lap, his small hand finding mine. Mommy, are we still superheroes? I thought about the journey, from that first envelope of photos to this moment. About revenge transformed into redemption, about justice softened by mercy, about protection becoming empowerment. We're something better, I told him. We're survivors who learn to thrive. Lorraine dabbed at her eyes, Madison smiled, and somewhere across the city, a sold restaurant sign came down as new stories began. The Decker legacy hadn't ended. It had evolved, splitting like a river into multiple streams, each finding its own path to the sea. Some carrying pain, others hope, all of them somehow necessary for the journey. Who wants to do superhero poses? Oliver asked. We all stood. The betrayed wife, the other woman, the controlling mother-in-law, the innocent child, forming an unlikely circle in my living room. Ready? I asked, not just about the poses. They nodded, and together we stretched towards something new, something real, something strong enough to weather any storm. Because sometimes the happy ending isn't about winning or losing. Sometimes it's about finding the strength to begin again, and the wisdom to do it better this time.